On June 18, 1928, Roald Amundsen took off in his flying boat to rescue survivors of the crashed Italia airship. He was 55 years old, the most experienced Arctic explorer alive, flying into conditions he had navigated countless times before. But the aircraft discovered in melting permafrost revealed he never reached the crash site. The fuel levels, the navigation equipment, the personal effects scattered inside the cabin, all of it pointed to a truth that would rewrite polar exploration history forever. Official records were clear. Amundsen died attempting a heroic rescue mission in the Barents Sea. Norwegian authorities confirmed it. International rescue coordinators agreed. The world's greatest explorer had perished saving others. This flying boat did not exist where it was supposed to. But there it was, 400 miles from the search area, waiting in the ice. 3 researchers died trying to reach the wreckage. When they finally recovered the flight recorder and navigation logs, the discovery shattered a century of accepted history. The flying boat had been officially lost over open water. It was actually preserved in Arctic ice, 400 miles from where anyone had looked. But the location was not the only thing the records got wrong. When investigators examined the fuel consumption patterns and flight path data, they discovered something far more disturbing. Amundsen wasn't flying toward the Italia crash site. He was flying away from it. Roald Amundsen wasn't just another polar explorer. By 1928, he had achieved what no human in history had accomplished. First to reach the South Pole in 1911, beating Robert Falcon Scott by 34 days. First to navigate the Northwest Passage. First to fly over the North Pole in an airship. At 55, he was a living legend who had survived 30 years in the world's most hostile environments. Amundsen was methodical, calculating, and obsessed with precision. Colleagues described him as a man who left nothing to chance, who planned every expedition down to the last biscuit and spare part. The crew of his flying boat, Latham 47, numbered 5 men: René Guilbault, the French pilot; Gilbert Brazy, the mechanic; Émile Villette, the radio operator; Albert Cavelier de Couveville, the navigator. All experienced Arctic hands who had flown with Amundsen before. By 1928, Arctic aviation had become something close to a death sentence. The technology was primitive. Weather forecasting was non-existent. Radio communication was unreliable. Of the 47 aircraft that had attempted Arctic rescue missions since 1920, 23 had never returned. The men who climbed aboard Latham 47 understood these statistics. They had watched other planes disappear into the white void. They went anyway because Amundsen asked them to. And when Amundsen asked, experienced Arctic hands said yes. On May 25, 1928, the Italian airship Italia crashed on pack ice north of Spitsbergen while returning from a flight over the North Pole. The orders were straightforward: locate the survivors, drop supplies, guide rescue ships to their position, return to base. Amundsen departed Tromsø, Norway at 4 p.m. on June 18th, flying northwest toward the last known position of the Italia survivors. 5 men sealed inside a fabric-covered flying boat, heading toward coordinates they would never reach. The Latham 47 was never heard from again. After the rescue operations ended, Norwegian authorities undertook the task of accounting for every aircraft lost in the Italia rescue effort. Their records were thorough despite the chaos of international rescue coordination. For Amundsen's flight, the official determination seemed straightforward. On June 18, 1928, radio operators reported losing contact with Latham 47 approximately 200 miles northwest of Tromsø. Weather conditions had deteriorated rapidly. The aircraft was presumed to have crashed in the Barents Sea during a storm. When analysts matched the flight plan against known weather patterns, the conclusion fit perfectly. The aircraft had encountered severe turbulence and gone down in open water. No survivors possible. Case closed. The Norwegian Aviation Authority accepted this determination. The families of the 5 crew members were notified that their loved ones had perished in the Barents Sea while attempting a heroic rescue. For nearly 96 years, no one questioned it. In 2019, climate researcher Dr. Erik Solheim was studying ice core samples from Kvitoya Island when he noticed something unusual in satellite imagery. The Arctic was not a place for casual exploration. Temperatures averaged -40 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. Polar bears patrolled the ice. Weather could change from clear to lethal in minutes. At Kvitoya's elevation, exposed to constant Arctic winds, survival time for unprotected humans measured in hours, not days. Despite these hazards, Solheim kept returning. the satellite anomaly demanded investigation. He made expedition after expedition, using ground-penetrating radar to examine what appeared to be aircraft debris emerging from melting permafrost. Then the Arctic started claiming lives. In August 2022, researcher Anna Christensen fell through unstable ice while approaching the site. Her body was never recovered. 2 months later, pilot Magnus Haugen crashed his helicopter during a supply run. He survived the impact but died of exposure before rescue teams could reach him. The Arctic community was devastated. Some argued the site should be abandoned. The mystery wasn't worth more deaths. Solheim refused. If anything, the tragedies made identification more urgent. Christensen and Haugen deserved to know what killed them. In September 2024, 96 years after Amundsen's disappearance, Solheim found what he had been searching for. A propeller blade, partially exposed in melting permafrost, engraved with manufacturer specifications matching Latham 47's engine. Solheim brought it to the surface and contacted aviation historians in Oslo. Research confirmed that the serial numbers matched Amundsen's aircraft exactly. The impossible flying boat had a name, Latham 47. It had been assigned to search the Barents Sea, but was actually preserved on Kvitoya Island, 400 miles from where the world believed it rested. 96 years of official history were wrong. The identification sent shockwaves through the polar exploration community. For nearly a century, the official record had stated with absolute confidence that Amundsen crashed in the Barents Sea while flying toward the Italia survivors. Norwegian authorities were skeptical when first contacted. But Solheim had evidence that could not be dismissed. The aircraft's fuel tanks, still partially full. Navigation charts showing a course toward Kvitoya, not toward the Italia crash site. Personal effects, including Amundsen's journal with entries dated June 19th, one day after he supposedly died. The evidence didn't just tell families where Amundsen died. It told them he had lied about where he was going. Flight recorder analysis revealed the aircraft had maintained steady altitude and course for over 6 hours. This was not a plane struggling against weather. This was controlled flight toward a predetermined destination. The fuel consumption patterns showed Latham 47 had enough reserves to reach the Italia survivors and return to base. Instead, Amundsen flew in the opposite direction until the tanks ran dry. Navigation equipment revealed coordinates programmed for Kvitoya Island, a location that appeared on no rescue mission flight plan. Most disturbing of all, Amundsen's personal journal contained detailed maps of unexplored Arctic territories and references to the discovery that changes everything. The evidence revealed Amundsen hadn't died attempting rescue. He had used the Italia crisis as cover for a secret expedition to claim undiscovered land for Norway. For 96 years, the families of Latham 47's crew had believed their loved ones died as heroes, sacrificing themselves to save Italian airship survivors. Some had made pilgrimages to the Barents Sea. They stood on Norwegian shores staring at water that they believed held their ancestors. When Solheim began contacting the Norwegian families, the reactions were complicated in ways that simple grief could not capture. Some families expressed profound gratitude. Finally, after decades of uncertainty, they knew the truth. Others were devastated. Learning that Amundsen had deceived the world changed nothing about the crew's death, but somehow changed everything about their sacrifice. The hardest conversations involved what the evidence revealed about how the men died. The journal entries showed the crew had survived the forced landing. They had established a shelter. They had rationed supplies. They had waited for rescue that would never come, because no one knew where to look. Amundsen's final entry, dated June 23rd, described watching his men die one by one from exposure and starvation while he guarded his secret discovery until the end. Latham 47 remains on Kvitoya Island. Climate change continues exposing more of the wreckage. Each melting season reveals additional evidence of Amundsen's deception. The discovery forced uncomfortable questions. If official records were wrong about Amundsen, what else was wrong? How many other heroic expeditions were actually cover stories for territorial claims or resource exploration? But the discovery also raised questions about cost. 3 researchers died investigating the wreckage. The flying boat that had killed 5 men in 1928 had claimed 3 more lives in the 2000s. Some argued the obsession was not worth the price. Amundsen's reputation was already secure. His deception affected nothing of practical importance. Others believed the opposite. The researchers who died were pursuing truth voluntarily with full knowledge of the risks. History deserves accuracy, even when it comes at a cost. There is no resolution to this debate. Latham 47 sits in Arctic ice, slowly surrendering to time. The men inside remain where they fell, 96 years after their final flight. They left Norway believing they were flying toward a heroic rescue. They ended up on a barren island, killed by their commander's ambition and the world's willingness to believe a comfortable lie. The mystery is solved. The crew is identified, but the Arctic still has secrets, and explorers still keep them. The ice kept it hidden for nearly a century. It only surrendered the truth when someone was willing to die for it.